Trees are the oldest living organisms on Earth. There's a bristlecone pine in California that's nearly 5,000 years old. It's probably the world's oldest tree. Trees contribute to our lives and to the environment in ways you've probably never thought about. They absorb pollutants from the air. They help manage water and they stabilize soils. Trees moderate the temperatures of cities and they help combat the dramatic effects of climate change. Trees offer habitat for animals. We harvest their wood, we eat their fruits, and we enjoy their shade. This redwood grove is at Fullerton Arboretum in Orange County, California. It's pretty much the southernmost limit for redwoods. Now, this stand was planted, but the native redwoods and their cousins, the sequoias in the northern part of the state, grow for hundreds of years and reach huge proportions. They are magnificent trees, but they're not the only ones. Today, we're in search of trees, enormous trees, champion trees, trees that are vital to Earth's survival and affect our lives in ways you've probably never thought about, as we'll see today on A Growing Passion. Our search for big trees begins on the campus of California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo. Professor and botanist Matt Ritter is the California coordinator for the American Big Tree Program.
It is here, the national champion red gum.
Wow, that's massive.
It's an impressive individual.
It's not just, it's got a huge girth, but it's really tall.
And beautiful.
How big is this tree?
It's about 100 feet tall.
Okay.
It's about 150 feet in its average circumference of its canopy spread, we call it.
The canopy spread, okay.
And
150 feet.
Yeah, and the exact measurement on the trunk I don't actually remember, but it has about a 7-foot diameter.
So across, if we were to cut it down and measure across, it'd be 7 feet.
Yeah.
That's pretty big. How old is this tree?
As far as we know, it was planted in about 1911.
What's the name of the, what's the name?
Eucalyptus calmadulensis.
Thank you.
It's the scientific name.
That's how we know it.
It's the second most commonly planted eucalyptus in the world after the blue gum, and a very widely planted tree in California as well.
It's from Australia, right?
It's from Australia. This is the biggest individual of its species that we know of in North America. This one right next to it is the same species, probably planted around the same time, but it's just smaller. So something happened in the life of this tree where it got lucky and it just got the right nutrients and grew really well.
The American Big Tree Program tracks big trees in every state and in the District of Columbia. In California, the Big Tree Registry lists about 250 species of trees. Anyone can nominate a big tree. Just measure according to the rules and submit your findings. Once the measurements are verified, the tree is crowned a champion.
We've learned some fascinating things about these champion trees and where they grow and how big they can get. One thing that we've learned, which is interesting, is that we have learned that some trees grow larger outside their native range than in their native range.
And why would that be?
It's possibly because they're released from some of the disease and pests that occur in their native range.
Okay, and are there more champion-sized trees on campus here?
Yeah, we have a second champion tree on campus. You want to go see it?
Yes,
All right.
Definitely do.
Let's go. This is where the national champion Kari gum is.
How big is this one?
This is about a 180-foot tall tree.
This is like twice as tall as the one we were looking at before?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was me actually that discovered this one. I was walking by here with some students one day, and I was looking down at the ground, looking at fruit and leaves and things as I usually do, and I saw this.
This is the seed capsule, right?
Yes, exactly. So little woody seed capsules. The one on top there is a blue gum, the very typical one that you see all over California. It looks like a little button. And then when I was walking by, I saw this one on the bottom. Wow, what is that? That is something completely different. It's clearly not a blue gum because everything else around us are blue gums. Yeah. Except this one tree. And this one tree is a good 50 feet taller than everything around it.
So how did you measure the height of this tree?
So big trees are measured in a way that gives a point score. So the circumference in inches plus the height in feet plus the average canopy spread in feet. So you measure the canopy spread from several angles, get the average diameter, and you get a point score. And the individual with the largest point score is the champion. I am 6 feet.
So your arms are 6 feet?
6 feet tall, about 6 feet from fingertip to fingertip, and you can get an appreciation for how large it actually is.
Okay, so I can picture you with a tape measure measuring the circumference of the trunk at breast height.
Yep.
But how do you measure the canopy and the height?
If you can get a good view of the tree, I have a laser rangefinder where I can point to it and hit a button and it tells you exactly how tall it is. This one we actually had to climb to measure it.
Wait a second. You're telling me you climbed into this tree?
All the way to the top, yep. With harnesses and ropes and safety, safety first.
Clearly, big tree enthusiasts are a special breed, but it intrigues me to think that champion trees are all around us. My visit with Matt inspired me to look up a few on my own. I'm in Carpinteria, California, checking out the biggest Torrey pine in the state, if not the world. The amazing thing is, this Torrey pine isn't native to here. This Torrey is growing totally outside its range. Its nearest habitat is like 44 miles across the ocean on Santa Rosa Island, or 200 miles south of here in Torrey Pine State Reserve. And yet, this is 2 or 3 times the size of any Torrey pine I've ever seen. Amazing. I've spent the whole day looking at big trees that are all really tall, but not every big tree is tall. Some of them are really wide, like this one. This sycamore is so big that a palm tree planted itself right in the middle. Big trees are everywhere and anywhere, and often in places you wouldn't suspect, which is why my next stop is West Los Angeles. Today, I'm visiting the Yamaguchi Bonsai Nursery. It's kind of ironic that a place that sells the smallest trees might also be home to a champion tree, a floss silk tree, also called Coricia speciosa. I'm here to investigate.
This tree came over from our first nursery in 1964 in a 15-gallon container, and it was sat in that location, and I guess it decided to root itself, and it's been there ever since.
And does anybody ever come and measure the tree, or is this the first time?
Never
it's been
have.
measured?
So the first person who asked to measure it is Nick, so it's very exciting that it's being done.
Enter Nick Araya. Nick is an arborist, so he spends a lot of time looking at trees. Nick, why did you notice this tree?
You know, I've actually looked at it several times and it never quite clicked. And then one day I just happened to be looking at it as I pulled into the nursery. Something told me I should look up the current champion. So I pulled out my phone, looked up the champion, and just eyeballing the tree, I knew in my heart it's gonna be a champion.
Okay, I'm really excited to measure this. Let's go do it.
Let's go do it.
Nick uses the American Forest Guidelines to measure the trees and submit his findings. First, Nick checks the big tree registry to see what he's up against.
The original champion was measured in '97 and it's in Fallbrook, is 56 feet tall, a 50-foot wide canopy and 128 inches in girth. This tree right here is going to be far bigger than the current champion.
Great.
So each of those...
So we're crowning a champion today.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
it's going to
exciting.
happen. We're going to measure from ground level up 4.5 feet and go all the way around the tree, and that's going to tell us the girth of the tree.
Okay, let's do it.
So 4.5 feet. But you got to keep the tape level. 19 feet around, that's extremely large. The current champion total points is 197 total points, and we got 228. So just with the trunk measurement alone, we've dethroned the current champion.
Yay, but we got to measure the rest of it.
We still got to get the height and the branch spread. So I'm looking at this one right over here, straight.
Next, we identify which of the branches reaches out furthest from the tree on 4 sides.
You said it right in the palm. Bring it in, a little more. That's perfect right there. So now we're going to come directly across from where we just were. 70.6 is the average spread of all these branches.
Man, so this is 20 feet
Wider.
than the Champion was in 1997.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Then we walk a distance away to get a perspective on the tree's height.
We're going to take the measurements that this laser tells us for the distance from here to the base of the tree. We're going to plug that into an iPhone app, and then it will very precisely measure the angle that we're pointing the iPhone, and that's going to report to us the height of the tree. 202 feet, 202. And as we point it higher and higher, you can see that number changing. So we'll get this mounted into the tripod here.
It looks pretty good.
The line is meeting up just with the
Yes.
top of that branch.
That tallest branch.
And that tells us a height of 99.4 feet, just a hair shy of 100 feet.
Wow.
The only guaranteed accurate way to know the exact height of that tree is for someone to go to the top of that tree with the measuring tape and drop the measuring tape all the way to the ground.
I think I know who that someone is. For complete accuracy on the height measurement, Nick will have to climb this tree.
That'll work. That's a good shot.
Using mountain climbing gear, Nick sets a line, straps on his safety gear, and heads up into the tree. That's incredible. This is not an easy climb. The floss oak tree is covered in sharp, pointy thorns.
There's a lot of unnecessary friction that I'm fighting here because of all the thorns. Normally I could just walk up the tree and the rope would sort of just follow me through the tree.
I'm glad it's him and not me.
Yeah, really.
It takes almost an hour for Nick to climb to the top of the tree. He drops his measuring tape for a reading.
Okay, so I've got a mark right in front of my face at this particular thorn that I'm not gonna forget, and it's 83 feet exactly, plus another 25 from here to the very top of the tree, which gives us 108 feet.
The tree's dimensions are translated to points. Nick totals them all up and enters the information into the big tree registry.
197 points. That's the old tree, the
All
old
right.
Champion.
And ours is?
And
you
ours
ready?
is that 17.65
Right. Go back to
Whoops.
your calculator. Plus
plus
228
228 plus
108.
108, and that gives us a grand total of
353 and 60.65.
353. So I'll probably just report that as 353, but you and I will know there's an extra 0.65.
Yeah, that's more than a half. So that is almost twice, just a little less than twice the size of the former Champion.
Exactly.
What a champion!
This was great. And to know that it's going to be a long time until someone else finds a tree anywhere close to the size of this one.
You can find a list of California's biggest trees online at the Urban Forest Ecosystem Institute's website. You can even nominate a tree. So the next time you're driving to work or walking to school or just strolling through the neighborhood, keep an eye out. The next champion tree might be right around the corner. Trees have a commercial value. They have an environmental value. They also have an emotional and psychological value. Trees also create a sense of place. This was the case for William Randolph Hearst. Hearst made his money in newspaper publishing and in the movies. But his passion lay here, on his 270,000-acre cattle ranch near San Simeon, California.
William Randolph Hearst was only 2 years old when his father bought this property in 1865. And as a boy, he came up here with his parents to camp. So he'd known it literally all of his life.
Hearst loved this landscape, its grassy hills, its rugged canyons, and its groves of coastal live oaks. They inspired him and architect Julia Morgan to build what today we call Hearst Castle. every aspect of which was designed to celebrate nature and trees in particular.
It really was a joyful collaboration between two remarkable people, William Randolph Hearst as the client and Julia Morgan as his architect. Together they worked on this project from 1919 to 1947, 28 years. They started with the idea of one cottage, something a little bit more permanent than tents, where he could bring his wife and 5 sons to camp in the summer, the way he'd camped. But within a month, as Julia Morgan's employee said, they were going on the grand scale. That's the scale that William Randolph Hearst always went on as an art collector and a builder. So very quickly it became a compound of 3 cottages with a main building in the center, not that different from the tents, the way the tents had been arranged when he camped here in boyhood.
Before building began, surveyors carefully mapped the locations of each oak on the property.
They never cut an oak tree down. It was just a few years into construction, when the place was expanding, that they actually began to move oak trees out of the way, and they moved 4 enormous oaks in the process of constructing the hilltop.
What gave them the idea to move an oak?
Mr. Hearst discussed the possibility of moving oak trees with Miss Morgan in their correspondence. She said that she knew of trees being moved, but nothing the size of these oaks. It was, I believe, an unprecedented action.
Coast live oaks are majestic evergreens with spreading silver-brown branches and deep green holly-like leaves. Julia Morgan's plot plan showed the locations of every centuries-old oak. The main house was designed in the shape of a T to accommodate the giant trees. This was the first tree they moved?
This is the first oak that was moved. Yes, it was moved in 1926 when they were contemplating the building, adding a wing onto the building. And so in the course of building the foundation, they dug a trench and they moved this tree out of the way.
What gave them the idea to move an oak tree?
Well, if he hadn't moved the tree, he wouldn't have been able to build the addition on the house, because the tree had priority. And so this was the first oak they tried moving, and it was in 1926. They put the giant flower pot around the root system and then dragged it with house moving equipment. They used winches.
So that's like, what, 20 or 30 feet?
Yes, and giant cables.
And it's lived
It has lived.
Almost 100 years.
Yes. I think Mr. Hearst would be pleased to know that these oaks he loved are still here.
This looks like it must be how many hundreds of years old?
Well, probably at least 300. This huge, beautiful oak tree was the reason why the main building looks as it does. They built the whole footprint of the house so that it wouldn't disturb this oak tree.
This one.
This one, and there were 2 others on the other side as well.
Wow. How old do you think this one is?
Well, I think I can say with certainty it's at least 200 years, and it could be actually quite a bit more than that. It could be even 300 years.
So this really caught my eye because the tree is growing over the patio. Is that what happens in 100 years?
Yes, that's right. And that's because it's so old. The patio's been here 100 years, and it's been here 200 more than that. No, about a year and a half ago, because of the way the oak is growing outwards, we actually heightened the fountain. It was flush to the terrace, but we wanted to give the oak room to grow.
This one is magnificent.
Well, you can see that they built this cottage, this Casa del Monte, to be behind that oak tree. But if we come up a little higher, you'll be able to see the entire landscape and why he built at the top of this hill.
Oh my. How many acres is this?
Well, originally it was 250,000 acres, 250,000, and today it's still a pretty substantial 82,000 acres. And what's so wonderful is to look at this much landscape, and it hasn't changed. It looks exactly as it did in Mr. Hearst's time.
How close is today's landscape to what William Randolph Hearst envisioned?
Well, everything's taller now than he ever got to see. You know, we are actually seeing the gardens the way he wanted to see them. These gardens are a statement of Hearst's love for all things California.
He set the framework using native oaks and native bay laurel trees. When he needed to plant new trees, he sited them to frame and enhance views. Around those trees, underneath them, surrounding them, he wanted a profusion of color. So he chose traditional favorites like roses and camellias and azaleas and fuchsia. Together, Hurst and Morgan determined the placements of all the plants that weren't native oaks and laurels. Palm trees and orange trees, terraces and tiles give the grounds a Spanish feel, while sweeping terraces allow you to take in the view as if you were in an Italian villa. It's a Mediterranean mashup with a California feel. Construction began here in the 1920s, a time many regard as the greatest decade for California horticulture and gardens. These gardens reflect that. Hundreds of thousands of plants in every size, shape, and color, a reverence for nature and for trees in particular. Hurst honored his attachment to this place by planting and preserving a quintessential California landscape.
There was no place he loved more, and in 1917, he wrote to his mother Phoebe about the ranch, as he called it. He said, "I love this ranch. It is wonderful. I love the sea, and I love the mountains, and the hollows in the hills, and the shady places in the creeks, and the fine old oaks, and even the hot, brushy hillsides full of quail, and the canyons full of deer. I would rather spend a month at the ranch than any place in the world." And he never changed his mind about that.
Moving large trees is a tricky business. Just ask Richard Barron of Barron Brothers Nursery in Camarillo, California. His company's expertise is growing and moving huge specimens. Today they're moving a South American maton tree that Barron has been growing for decades.
Richard, I think this is one of the most beautiful maton trees I've ever seen. I know it's going to your house. Tell us what you're going to do with it first.
Well, we're going to plant this. We're going to plant the tree at the right by a waterfall, and all year I've been trying to get it there, and today we're going to do this.
This giant weighs in at 2 tons. It's 18 feet tall, and it's growing in an 84-inch box. Now that's a big tree. The crew starts by top-boarding the tree. That's enclosing the planting box to keep both soil and tree firmly in place. Cleats and skids are added so a crane can lift the tree and place it gently on a flatbed truck. The process takes a couple of hours. Once it's secured on the truck, the tree is tarped to protect the foliage from wind damage. Then it's driven to its new home. Once on site, the tree is carefully lifted and placed at Barron's direction.
Good.
The box is removed and the root ball is scored to help roots grow out into the surrounding soil. The crew mounds soil around the root ball rather than planting it in a hole. A PVC pipe aerates the roots. Barron developed this technique to help trees easily become established.
Landscape lots are compacted soil. They're compacted to hold a house, and then we try to plant landscape plants in it. And so when the plant starts suffering, you know, again, it's very basic stuff. It needs air, you know, it needs moisture and support. And if it can't drain,
then you drown the
it
roots,
dies.
of course.
So by having this, you have a way to test and pump out, and it also will wick and air and evaporate.
Tree movers can move trees up to 40 feet tall. The equipment required to move them means hiring professionals. Costs range from $2,500 to $85,000, but the results can be well worth it, both for creating instant landscape and for preserving living history.
Big trees bring beauty and grace to our lives. They protect us and the environment. Our job then is to be tree stewards, to protect trees no matter what their size, to honor them and ensure their survival for generations to come. I'm Nan Sterman. See you next time on A Growing Passion.